Okay, so good morning. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us. I hope you had a nice afternoon and night yesterday in Mallorca. So for today, we have two roundtables. We have chosen a few topics that arose yesterday, and we want to discuss further. So I'll just project them in the back for each of the tables. I wanted to give you like the rules that I think we should use for the debate. I'm gonna ask a few questions related to each topic so that our experts can give us their opinions, and after that we would give you the word also, so if there's any comment or question in the audience, it's also very welcome. We have many things I would like to discuss. So I would ask the experts and the people in the audience to try to keep the intervention relatively short so that everyone has a chance to say what they think. For this first roundtable, there are 4 topics that we have identified that were very relevant yesterday, and I think there's many more things that we can say about them. One is the commitment on implementation or adoption of the solution that is developed in IPP. The other one is the advantages and disadvantages of each of the funding schemes at the national or regional level versus the European level. Third one that we didn't discuss much yesterday, but it was related to many of the problems and opportunities that you were discussing, is the bundling of demand in innovation procurement. And the last one is the cooperation between buyers and possible suppliers or tenders. So going on into the first topic, yesterday we saw that this seems to be the next big challenge in innovation procurement. How to guarantee that the people who are investing in this process that is already complex as it is are going to end up adopting the solution. Jorge discussed this with much depth, but I wanted to build on a bit on that, and perhaps Jorge, you can give us your view on how is it possible to achieve a believable commitment of these potential buyers that they're gonna adopt the solution. How has it been done so far? We understand that it's more thing of just saying we are going to do it, but is there any possible way that we could implement some legal mechanism to guarantee that this happen, or changes to the funding mechanism to guarantee that they actually adopt the solution?
Okay. In my experience, everything starts with the challenge itself. Okay, so we or you should not be doing this just because there is money available or because it's fashionable. I mean, that helps, and obviously for the people that want to implement this, it helps that there is a trend now in Europe pushing into this direction. That helps, but the instruments are not a goal on themselves. The instruments are just a means. My point is that the challenge, the problem that you want to solve, has to be important. Okay. So if you only leave the innovation units to get the money to develop the pilot, then probably the pilot, even if it is successful, will just stay as it is, as a pilot, nothing else. It will not be implemented. So it's very important that when you identify challenges, you try to identify as many as possible. Because in our experience, only when you have enough quantity, you can then pick the right challenges for your maturity level. So if you are starting, try to make things easy, okay? So the model, for example, that it was presented yesterday, for example, from the European Commission with these strategies, it's just one potential implementation. You can do things in a different way. It can be simpler. So try to use, especially at the beginning, the most easy approach. Try to select challenges when you have committed people behind. Try to select challenges with the management is very committed to implementation, and that actually they put it in writing, even if there is no legal binding to that. But if they are not even willing to put that in writing, it's a filter. You know that they are not so much committed versus the ones that are putting that in writing. So my suggestion at the very beginning is that you choose challenges where the proposer of the challenge is really passionate about it, where the management, it gives credible commitment about future adoption, and where you have all the other potential players like legal, the budget, procurement, and IT department, that everybody is aligned and they like the challenge. Especially if this is the first time that you implement that. Try to make it very easy. And don't worry so much if the, is this really innovation? Do we have something in the market that is ready? It's okay. In the first iterations, the objective is to learn. It's not so important what is the project itself. What is important is that the organization learns that there is a success and that people want more. That is the objective of the first interaction. Once you have that, then you can make things more complex. You can go for challenges that they are maybe longer, that they need more budget, that they need more complexity. But what is really important, and I mentioned that yesterday, is the culture in the organization. A project is not going to change our organization, no matter how big the project is. But if you have a culture where innovation is well perceived, that people want to innovate, that the civil servants, yes, we want this, and we are willing to overcome the potential barriers and so on, because we think this is important, that's where you want to be. And for that, you need to start, like babies, first crawling, then walking, and then if you want, in some years, running. But start very easy. So this is one of the main messages that I want to say, start easy. And then coming back to the question is that if you pick the right challenge at the beginning, meaning that you can choose between different ones, take the challenge where you have the commitment. Don't pick the challenge that sounds the best, that the firework, oh, we are going to save the world, we are going to cure cancer, we are going to, no. Be humble. Take a narrow approach, but with a lot of passion from the challenge promoter and a lot of commitment from the management of the organization. This doesn't mean that it will be adopted at the end, but in my opinion, without them, most likely it will not be adopted.
Okay, great, thank you. So I understand that right now there are no available mechanisms to make them adopt the solution. Do you think there's an ideal scenario or some mechanism that we can invent so that they have to do it, so that you're safe investing this money in the development of the solution? Or maybe someone in the audience is familiar with a case or a mechanism that allows for that?
I have one idea, but if you guys want to say something. Okay, I start and then you follow. You will probably start interacting with potential buyers at the beginning. And in the conversations, you will see how do they react. There will be people that they will say yes, but. And then there will be other people that say, okay, this can be difficult, but yes, we want to do it. You will see that. It's the human factor, okay? So start with the ones that are more motivated. You don't need to do this with everybody at the same time. Start with the leaders, start with the ones with the visionaries, if you want, and then the others will be looking. And if they are successful and they have benefits, the others will come sooner or later. So don't do big implementations with a lot of projects in parallel that this can go wrong. Just kind of cherry pick the winners, the winning horses. As in, say in English, take the low-hanging fruit. Take the easy cases with the committed people, with the committed management, with a challenge that is reasonable, that still is a challenge, but is relatively easy to get adopted. Because again, the question is not that is innovation, or it's going to be a project that is going to change the whole organization. The objective is to change the culture so that innovation is easier to adopt in the future. And by doing one iteration, another iteration, little by little, the organization culture change, and then whatever you propose will be much easier in the future. So start humble, get a lot of commitment and passion in the people participating in the first projects, and just learn and optimize after each iteration.
Could I add a little bit? Yeah. Thank you for the start process, but maybe I will take a little bit about another things that, yes, innovation culture we should improve. But what do you think about the competitiveness? Maybe competitiveness is enough for the meaning that you should be innovative. Maybe there are no necessary to have various measures, supporters, and so on. If I would like to be on the market, I should be innovative. So.
But competitiveness of whom?
In general.
I mean, that's why I say when you pick the challenge, you need to pick a challenge that is good for your purposes. For me, the ideal challenge, and that's one of the most difficult things in the whole process, because everything is based on the challenge, okay? So when the ideal scenario is what, for example, what we say, we, in 2 weeks, we recruited 70 plus challenges. And because we had so many challenges, we could choose the right challenge, the right 4 in our case, but it can be 1, it can be 2, whatever you want to do. Between of the 70, not all the challenges were fit for the time frame, for the budget that we have, that it was a good market opportunity for the solvers, that it was good also for the IT department to interact with. So if you have a lot of challenges, you just choose the one that fits best for the actual instrument that you will put in place, taking into account the length of the project, the budget that you have available, the people that is under your command, these kind of things. So obviously, not everything fits, okay? That's why I encourage you to identify a lot of challenges. If my suggestion is that you can talk with management, okay? But my experience is that management are not the ones that really do the co-creation at the end. The co-creation at the end, in our case, we are in health, is done by doctors and nurses. So in our case, we directly ask doctors and nurses for the challenges, but you need also management to commit. So what we did is that it was a bottom-up approach. We did a competitive search of challenges in doctors and nurses, but it was management that picked the ones that they were more aligned with the strategy organization, and also, and this comes from the funder in our model, the Regional Development Agency, the ones that had the most chances to have a market opportunity for the companies. So for example, what happened to us in France is that we had very little recruitment for some reasons, and we didn't have enough good challenges. So we prefer not to do the challenges because they were not good. So, but if you have a good variety of challenges, then you can choose the challenges that are good for the organization, that are good for the companies, that also fit in whatever financial scheme that you may have in order to give the funding and everything. So that's why I encourage you to do the easy thing. But to do the things easy, you need to have good material behind, where you can choose the best ones according to the concrete needs at that particular time. Those needs can change over time once you know more. But at the very beginning, please, things are easier than it looks like. The European Commission is providing guidelines and models, but they have a meaning goal that they have to, for example, combine people from different countries. This is crazy. That your first experience with public procurement is an European project we have been with Turkey, Italy, Spain, complete different health systems. And they all have to come together in a project. It's crazy because at the end you get something that is not good for anybody. Do you know what I mean? So start easy, start regional if you want. Start small, learn, but iterate. You know about lean startup? Have you heard about lean startup? Think lean, think easy. Because the important thing at this stage when you are starting things is to learn. It's not the project itself. And once you learn, once you are confident, once you have a criteria for doing things, you can do as complex things as you want. But at the beginning, keep it simple, keep it lean.
And in that sense, I would like to ask Lina to tell us about the process of how they, like, if they chose these two challenges that they're pursuing in the hospital, how was that process? Did they take into account these factors that Jorge is mentioning? Did you start with the ones that were the most important for the top management, or the ones that fitted the funding scheme the best? Like, which were the factors that you took into account to pursue these two challenges?
Yeah, maybe a few words before this answer about a little bit more about my experience, because we mostly here as coaching for how the innovation policy is very important, how we should be very innovative and so on. But and European Commission and national authorities often create new and new measures, different measures related with the innovation. Starting from the technology platforms in the UK, maybe not in UK, in the European Commission, maybe you remember that, and new measures for the promoting of innovation. And on the national level, because of various different monies could come, we create new and new measures. And but the problem could be with the implementation of new ideas. So, for example, we will get money by one measure, for example, as this new measures, commercial procurement. But how we could get the result, maybe after only 3 or 4 years, but during this period, maybe the new measure will appear. So we will start with new measures. And I am not very sure, is it good decisions to change and to test new and new various measures for the pushing of innovation. So that's why I ask about the, as provocation, maybe each subject, each organization could think about that in which innovation way they could go, and which experience they would like to attract, and to make the decision separately of the new European monies and so on. And because when the European money will finish, what we should do with innovation policy, because now we are using this money very broadly and for innovation and for infrastructure and other things. And we are quite lazy, because European Union say us, you should improve innovation by IPP or by PCP or by other measures. And we don't think a lot about our real progress and our real way, how we could be exclusive in the market and so on. But coming back for the PCP, and I would like to say that I have a various experience in. I was working in the Ministry of Education and Science. I was working in the Ministry of Economy, in the State Secretary position. So I am a very good coacher too, as you now. But when now I am in the buyer or contracting authority position, so I could attract these rules in our self way, and that is very difficult, because one topic is to write very nice words and to be very modern in this world, saying how it's important to improve innovative, how we could be very innovative, and so on and so on. And from the other hand, how you could implement these rules, writing by the government or by the parliament or by the European Commission. So, and starting from our experience in PCP, as I mentioned in my presentation yesterday, so I am very state person, so, and if the Minister of Economy and Innovation say that, yes, we have new measure, very nice measure, and we could encourage our business to invest to innovation, and we will finance 85 or 90% for the R&D activities, and so please start, public sector, start to initiate this process, and please say about the problems, about your ideas, and announce the tenders, invite the participants, and be in this process. Okay, we say yes, we are in this process. We asked our all medical centers, and they work very hardly, thinking about what new ideas they could implement in their work in surgery and other fields in medicine topics, and we selected a lot of ideas, very good ideas, and started organizing this process. And now as I told you yesterday, I don't know about the result. And from the one hand, you can say me, yes, but this is innovation process, and it's enough to create and to do only R&D activities and stop. And the other public procurement or IPP, you should start again. So, and I don't know if I have a result or no, or only I'm imitated R&D activities. I don't have the result for our clinics. So that is questions we have today. So that is my problem maybe now, how to do and how to change process and to have the result, and only after that, that if this result achieving by the PCP process is good for us, and only after that we will make the decision about the forward process. And if we will need new such products, we will buy it by IPP process. Okay, but now there are not enough for the contracting authority, public sector, to participate in the R&D process and to participate only in R&D activities, and maybe it will be good results or no, that it doesn't matter for you. So it was my questions for the auditoria, and I don't get the answer. But that's, we will decide this problem, of course, and we will agree with our participant, and we will go for the right way. But in the document, there are some gaps, I think. And the other topic related with the IPP, I don't understand what is this innovation procurement. Because in our case in Lithuania, we, during maybe 20 years, have only two examples. And why we should organize IPP, how we could do that, maybe there are because of lack of regulation a lot, but now they are not popular. So if during the 20 years it is not popular, what is the problem? Is the problem with the regulation, or with our mentality, or with what? Maybe you could answer me. Thank you.
Okay, so if at any point anyone from the audience wants to do an intervention, just raise their hands. I did? Okay. So it's a very complex question, obviously, but from many questions, but one that I got, and I think I would like Antti to give us his view on that, is the concerns on how each of the countries make their own projects and their own instruments fit into the European culture of different instruments to foster innovation procurement. And maybe this time, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, because it's very different, the context in each country. And I think Finland, with what Antti told us yesterday, has been independent in coming up with new instruments to foster innovation. So if you could tell us about how this experience has been, and what are the advantages of these instruments that have higher level of novelty in comparison to others in the European Commission?
Yes, thank you. What I do as a consultant is, of course, I'm teaching to my customers to understand the legislations, what we have to follow, and that is the basic fact in a way. We have to follow the World Trade Organization's legislation from the European Union and so on. So, but at the end, there are no any organizations, there are no any companies, there are no any institutions. There are only people who are having conversation, basically. Only people who are having conversation. Someone is going to need something, someone is going to buy something, and someone is going to sell something, right? So what is the most common case of having a conversation? What is the most common case where we are having a conversation? In marriage. Marriage, whereas couple is having a conversation. That is the most common case where we are having a conversation, right?
Agreement.
Sorry?
Agreement, maybe, not conversation.
Maybe agreement. But let me tell you a story once again. If today evening I'm going to tell my wife that I'm going to take a flight to Finland, to Lapland, and I'm going to spend 2 weeks over there drinking and partying with my friends, I'm not going to succeed in that kind of procurement. I'm not going to succeed. But if today evening I'm going to tell to my wife that we have planned to take a flight to Finland, to Lapland with my friends on the next winter. So how many beers we can take in order to implement that kind of journey in the Lapland? So we have to be able to have a conversation without our egos. We have to be open-minded. We have to know the borders in a way. We have to know what are the legislations. We have to know the legislation in marriage. We have to know the legislation in procurement. But there is only two people having a conversation. And when we are doing that in open mind, then all the innovation and all the partnership or whatever we are going to do, then we are going to succeed in those. So, and basically, of course, there's lots of competitive dialogue or negotiated procedures, social impact models or whatsoever, but we have to be willing to have open-mind conversation with each other. And we have to put our egos behind in a way. And why I said again that we have to put our egos behind? Because if, for example, if someone of you is going to correct me, and if I would be offended of that, that would be my problem, not yours. And when we are going to have that kind of conversation, that we don't have our egos with us, we are just having open-minded conversation, then we are going to succeed whatever we are going to do. It doesn't matter, are we going to make a 200 million construction project, or are we going to take flights to Lapland or whatsoever. But we have to do that conversation, we have to have the dialogue beforehand, we are not going to do anything more. So before the tendering process even starts, we have to start the open market dialogue about the social impact models or sustainable innovative pilot procurement platforms or partnership procurement whatsoever. But it all starts from the open market dialogue, and that is also inside in the legislation. So that is in my mind that is the best option to procure anything.
I'll do a follow-up question with that, because we're already jumping to another topic, that is the cooperation between the buyers and the suppliers. And I guess there's a different context in Finland, but is there a concern that this dialogue might get them to be too close, like trust going into more corruption concern? Or are there any legal mechanisms that you think should be put in place so that people feel safe interacting, for example, the buyers with potential suppliers, or this is not a problem in Finland?
Well, of course, we have to be sure that we are not going to do any illegal in a way. But the better we know, but the better we are aware about the legislations, the better we can use those legislations in a way. So, for example, I used to play rugby back in the days. So the better I knew the legislation in rugby, the better player I was. So we have to be aware what the legislations are, what we can do and what we are not allowed to do. In that way, we can let's say, we can work inside the legislations in a way. Well, because I'm not a lawyer, I don't have experience about that, but there might be, of course, some sort of new legislation which we could implement so that all the parties, all the companies, the buyers can be assured that everything is going as we agreed and no one is going to do anything illegal.
Okay, okay. Thank you. And can maybe, Jorge, you can share a bit of your experience with this permanent dialogue? Like, I understand that one of the main successes of the in-demand model is that it allows for this permanent interaction and almost co-creation of the solutions. Is there a concern that after the innovation procurement like finishes, some people are going to have advantages that go beyond what should be allowed in an open procurement?
Not necessarily. I mean, I think that in general, that depends more on the people interacting and if they want to be twisting the system or not. I don't think that the instrument per se doesn't either benefit or discourage that. It's just more the people how they do things. So I don't think so. May I answer Lina's question? So, understanding your context as you have explained it, let me try to, from my point of view, try to summarize how it's in. So, I think that some years ago, the European Commission, and actually this started in the States. I don't know if you know this initiative in the States that is called SBRR, right? That they say, okay, how can we help also small companies? Small companies, when they interact with public administration, it's very difficult for them. So they thought, let's assign a percentage of our budget to directly buy for small companies. So it's a win-win. And this project started, and then it was picked up later by the European Commission and say, okay, how public administration spends a lot of money. If a percentage of that money is devoted for innovation, it's a win-win. And everybody like the idea. But then there are rules. There are World Trade Organization has rules. Say, wait a minute, you can subsidize innovation, but you cannot subsidize purchasing. So that's why they split the PCP, in my opinion, with the procurement. Because also thinking that the public administration, they already have budgets for themselves for buying things. So what they say at the beginning, in my opinion, with the PCP was to say, okay, you are maybe not procuring something because it has a risk, because it requires a technological risk that you need to investigate, and because you don't know if that is going to be successful, and almost by definition, if you are a public administration, you are like kind of risk averse, and you are not very innovative, then you don't do anything. So the European Commission, okay, we are going to help you in the risky part. We are going to give you money so you can do the innovation in collaboration. You can investigate in collaboration with the market, so then you can learn, and then after this learning, you may decide that it is not risky anymore, so you know what you are procuring, and then you can do a standard procurement, because you already know what you want. At the beginning, you just know the problem, but after the iteration with the market, you know much more, and you can do a normal procurement. Okay, and that was the origin of PCP. Obviously, and I get that from a lot of the buyers, say, yeah, but listen, I already spent a lot of time and effort with this company. I really like it. I think they are the best. Creating a new procedure for buying these kind of things is a pain for me. Why cannot just have a procedure where I can have from beginning to end and adopt the procedure at the end? And in the last change of legislation, a new instrument, that's what we mentioned yesterday, that is innovation partnership, was established, saying that in this procedure, you can buy directly from a supplier within the procedure itself, okay? And that's another instrument that you can make. But for me, the critical thing is now, coming to your point, is like, I have the feeling that we are doing things just because we have a top-down pressure and because there is money available, and because other things that people want to do it. But maybe we should stop and reflect to say, what do we really want to do? What are the needs that we want to solve? We should not do this for the sake of innovation. We should do this for two reasons, in my opinion. One is because there is a problem that is affecting our citizens, and us as public administration, we want to deliver better services, and we want to solve this problem. And that for me is paramount. And as an added value, I want to help the companies, for example, in my region or in my country, to identify a good business opportunity that they can sell beyond that piloting customer, okay? This is what is really important. Now, if you choose one instrument or another, and yesterday we saw it's PCP, Innovation Partnership, it's PPI, we presented the in-demand model, you presented the social bonds. There are a lot of different instruments. But in my opinion, we should not be driven by the instruments. We should be driven for what we want to do. And at the end, what we should be thinking is, okay, this is a problem, this is an important problem, we want to get it solved, how can we best do it? And then starting with the problem, we say, okay, for this particular problem, the best instrument is this. So I implement this problem. Or is that another one? And then I implement the other problem. It should not be the other way around. I say, okay, I have availability of funds for an instrument. Let's implement the instrument, and then let's see how I can best do it, which is fair, But don't get confused with the means and the ends, because the important thing is not the instrument. And you can get better and better with the instruments, and even you can create your own instruments adapted to your reality. What is really important is to, again, create an environment where public administration can say, I have this problem, and I'm willing to invest my time, my resources, even my own money, in solving this problem. And then you say, then you go to the experts and say, okay, how can you help me? Okay, for that problem, I think that the best thing is that you use this instrument. And maybe to say, listen, this is not innovation. Just use your budget for procuring that. Or if not, say, no, you need innovation, there is a risk here. Okay, I'm going to tell you, depending on the problem, if you should go to regional, national, or European funding to get it solved, and using this or that other instrument. But what is important is that you really get problems solved and that you help the companies. Don't get obsessed with the instruments. What is important is what is behind, the culture that you create by implementing this with success time after time.
Yeah, that's a very good point actually, but what if that doesn't work? And that's exactly the case in Lithuania. That's the case. It doesn't work the way you are describing it. It works the opposite way around, when there is an instrument and the instrument is the motivational point. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. And when we have a lot of different instruments, then it's a bit confusing, and buyers don't know which one to use. And also, it's not a bottom-up approach. It's more the top-down approach in Lithuania, and this creates a lot of issues.
Then I come back to my colleague and say, then you need, I mean, I understand that people in front of you are rational people, okay? I take it. I mean, if this is going to be emotional, then it's another way. But let's, for the sake of discussion, that these are rational. I understand that you, as intermediate organization that added value experts, or at least people that know, and they come to here and they listen to several people and they see how it's implemented in other countries, to say, listen, of course we will implement instruments, but we need to think what is best for us. Because the risk that you are taking is that you implement an instrument in a not optimal way, you don't get the desired results, and then everything blame on innovation per se, and then think that, oh, this is not working, innovation is not worthy, let's put our money and time in other things. That's the risk that I'm saying. And you have to be able to explain that to your counterparts, what they're pressing you to do. Come on, hurry up, implement this instrument, let's get it, let's get as many projects as possible, and let's go to the newspaper and say that we are great. Listen, wait a minute. You are going to be in the newspapers, okay? But we need to take a rational approach to this. We need to start, but first getting good challenges from committed people with business management support that implement it. And maybe for that we need to spend more time in the challenges identification and maybe less time in the implementation, in the iteration. So my suggestion, for example, is that don't start in TRL. Are you familiar with TRL? 4 or 5. Start with TRL 7, 8, or even 9. Because what we are doing in demand, for example, is that we are using technology that is already in the market, but never been applied for that particular problem. So the objective for us is not to improve TRL 4 to TRL 7. That's not our objective. Our objective is to get problem solved and to get companies, make them more competitive. So when they come to you, they say, okay, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to spend more time than you expected in identifying the right challenges that are going to make this a success, and less time in the implementation. Because this, and this, and you try to convince them. So with the same budget, with the same time frame, if you do these things different, like for example that the European Commission is doing you in these 3 steps, why 3? It's not written that it has to be 3. The European Commission has chosen for their models in the European projects to be 3. But if you do it in 2, you gain time. Do you know what I mean? It's just an example. You can do a lot of different things like that. But instead of 3, you do 2. But then you spend much more time in identifying the right challenge with the right teams and with the right commitment. Do you know what I did? So then you for doing the same, you flip the way you do things, you become truly demand-driven, and you will have more chances of success. Because the other way, if not, your risk and the risk of the whole organization is that then there is no success and everybody blames on the concept instead of that the bad instrument that it was chosen or implemented. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, in general, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. That's the way it should be. But I'm just saying that that's not the case in Lithuania. And usually, when you go to the buyer and you kind of propose one way or another, and just like think about some challenges or think about some innovation you could buy, they would say like, we don't need it. We are too busy. We are doing things the ordinary way, and that's it. And I mean, it's very hard for us, or in general, to convince like anyone in public procurement, especially in public procurement, to do things differently or to think outside of the box, to think something different, something from what they've been doing for 20 years. And now you come here and say like, think all the different ways you can buy things, and they will say like, no.
Yeah, and added Vitaly, I would like to say, we meet here to change the experience. Yes, it is not necessary to say that everything is okay, everything is right, and so on. Because I think that we could be a little bit critical and to get maybe suggestions how to make the process more easier for the buyers, for the contracting authorities, and for the public sector, and for the business. So that is why we are maybe a little bit provocate the discussion how to make better document to realize European Commission and national programs. So that we are provocate discussion. Because this is only obstacles. Of course, in our case, there are a lot of smart people organizing this procurement process. It's okay. But if we see some obstacles and obscurities, maybe we could change and get to, suggestions for the policymakers. And that is why we are on this table and to discuss with you. So with PCP process in our clinics, everything will be okay, and the ideas is perfect, and we have a lot of ideas, and it will be nice to realize these ideas with the business participation. But if the process has a little bit problem, maybe, and we should to change it or to make the suggestions for it. Maybe you have, so that is why I ask about the process, not only about the ideas and so on and coaching process, but about concrete details. Maybe you have some already implemented PCP by public sector. It would be nice to know. If no, maybe we could be more theoretically in the discussion, and it's get benefit too, I think, yeah.
Right.
Thank you about your question. I fully understand your point of view, and for example, about the social impact bond model, I think the best thing in that is, of course, well, there is investor who is giving the money for the public authority, because in some cases the public authority cannot take the risks, or they just don't have the money to do the procurement. So in that case, the private investor is best option for that. But I think the most important thing, for example, the SIP model, is that everyone is on the same table. And everyone, I mean that there is the buyer, the public authority, there is the investor, of course, but then there is also the service provider, companies, and then there is also the end user and the moderator who is organizing the whole SIP model. So in that way, everyone is taken into account, and no one is left behind in a way. So once again, there's an open market dialogue for the process, but it starts from the needs and about the needs to fulfill some results or to buy some results. But like you said, if there is an instrument, it usually gives a motivation for all the operators in a way. But once again, I think that, for example, for the SIP model, I believe that the most important thing is that everyone is on the same table. Everyone is speaking the same language, and everyone is going to fulfill the same needs and to fulfill the same results in a way.
Yes, let me ask to answer your question. Who do you speak with? And this is coming also trying to Sandra to give you some concrete details about the process. Who do you speak with in the, say, in the hospitals, if that's your case, or in the public administration? Which level of the organization do you speak with when you talk about the public procurement of innovation?
I think usually it starts with the top, with the management,
Right.
because if you go bottom up, that's never gonna work. I mean, there is no public procurer.
Right.
Who
In our
agrees to do-
experiences, we have done a PCP. It's called Pro Empower. Our experience is that top management doesn't have a clue of what they want. Top management, I will repeat that. Top management, they don't know what they want. Wait a minute. Who are the best that they know what they want? People in the front line. In our case, doctors and nurses. People that they deal with this problem every day, and that they have even invented workarounds to solve this problem because top management doesn't listen to them. Okay? So what we have proposed to the Servicio Murciano de Salud, our regional providers, we first talk with top management and say, we have this opportunity, and it's not, please don't tell them, is this about procurement or if, no. We have this opportunity to solve problems of the organization, okay? Problems that you have. Do you have any concrete problems? And say, no, but blah, blah, blah. Okay. What about if we ask your people? We ask the people in the trenches. We ask the people in the front line, okay? We did that in Servicio Murciano de Salud. We only had 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, and it was the first time, we just sent emails, we organized a meeting. In 2 weeks, we collected 70 applications, not for just one person. Every application was a team with at least 4 people, okay? So it tells you that there is a lot of interest in the people. Is that all the healthcare professionals? Of course not. Majority of the healthcare professionals were not submitting proposals. They are very busy, they have their private offices, but a small percentage of them, they are very, very motivated to solve the problems with their patients. So just start with them. And the good thing is that because we have so many applications, 70, we were able to choose the best for our instrument, not the best for challenges. All the challenges were valid, all were unmet needs. But because we have a time constraint, 9 months, 30K for the solver, we just picked the ones that they were best fitted for the concrete instrument that we have. Okay, and we implemented them. One criteria that we use, and this is all public, and again, if you want to know more, we have this in-demand community scheme that we are giving away a direct know-how transfer with all the criteria, all the templates, all the contracts, everything, and you are invited to participate. We still have 2 gaps, first come, first served. But the idea is that the criteria where we chose the challenges was commitment of the team. Is the team proposing the challenge? If they win, they will co-create actively? How much do they commit to that? Now, second criteria, is there already assisting? If it is already assisting, the solution, you just do a normal procurement. That's not procurement. And the third one is that a big opportunity for the solver? Meaning, is that a particular problem of only this hospital, or this can be bought by other hospitals within Spain and outside Spain, okay? And then, because we have so many challenges, beginning from people, bottom up, we do that. Who chose? Because you need management. The thing is that sometimes we put in pictures, I put yesterday, I was the first guilty, the challenger just in a block. It's not true. A challenger is not a block. It's a puzzle of small little pieces, small little units, management, the clinical, legal, IT, procurement, and all these have to agree. So it's not just one organization that you speak with one person, it gives you, no, no, no. You need to align a lot of people around the organization. So giving a particular concrete example, that a best practice, if you want, that work with us, is that, of course, you first need to engage with management. But you don't start with procurement. Procurement is boring, okay? Sorry, Fernando. But it's boring. You need to excite them. You need to do. You want to be the best hospital in Lithuania in something? You want to be appear in the newspaper? You want to have a medal? I don't know. You know them. You tell them, yes, we have this opportunity for you. You can pick a problem that nobody else has solved, and we have money to help you to see what is the right solution. Okay? Now, you have two options. Either you have it top of mind, but if you don't have it, why don't we ask the people behind you? So you will motivate them. Another good practice that we did in my region was that everybody that proposed a challenge and it was accepted, they got a certificate from the organization that is valid for the professional career. So the doctors working in the innovation now will earn more money because they are innovative. Okay? And we do a gala, an event where, 200 people, the Prime Minister of Healthcare gave a certificate to the challenge, the people proposing the challenge, and they appear with a photo in social media, everything. We made them heroes because we want to change the culture of the organization to these people that they put their own time after work working on the project, because it's true, they have to do overwork, but they are so passionate about solving the problem that they want to work. These are the people that you want. And usually you don't find them in top management, this level of passion. But you need top management to agree. So that's why we identify challenges bottom up, but we let top management to decide, because by deciding, they are committing. Because then we can say, listen, you chose this challenge. You have to now adopt it if it is successful. Sorry for taking so much time.
I had a question a while ago.
Hello. Hello. Good morning, everybody. It's not exactly a question, but I think it's fantastic, this discussion. I will try to bring the discussion to this side a little bit, because we are a bit alone at the moment. And why? Because Lithuania stimulates this issue about the instrument. And my question is, or my first comment is, we are all, this is a project to improve instruments. Some financial instruments, maybe we are looking at this particular discussion. What I'm learning is that maybe there is a gap in the instrument of Lithuania, and this is something that I would like to stimulate the discussion. What is really the gap? And maybe Vitaly, you can also add something on that. Why? Because what it will be the approach from Lithuania's side to you think that the gap will be solved, the gap of the increasing of procurement of innovation, or more procedures, or more happiness in this environment, in this ecosystem, let's say. If you want to have this ecosystem more happy, more strong, more robust, what do you think it's the gap? You are going to improve the instrument, or you think you need other kind of instruments to make this instrument works well, works better? So this is and maybe the question is not only for you, maybe you have some comments, but what I've tried to, because we need this type of discussion, because maybe we are wrong in some of the instruments that we want to improve. maybe we will discover, oh, I was wrong in this way. Maybe I have to dig first something else before I can put my instrument, my poor instrument in principle, working well. So I would like to have your comments on that.
And
It was clear, the question?
What,
First of all, it was clear, the question?
Yes, I think it was clear. So I think that since we're running a bit late, but I like the idea of talking about this, I would ask to close this table and start the next one with the same question, and is if we had to send, I think they say it in Spain, a letter to Reyes Magos or something like that.
Three wise men.
Yeah, to the three wise men. So to ask each of the experts, what would they say to their governments? One thing that they would say, do you have to develop instruments that have this, or you have to change the instruments in this way? And another one that you can say to the European Commission, you should definitely change this or take this specific thing into account for their financial instruments. What would it be? I don't know, let's start.
What I would say to them is that you need to prepare the ecosystem. You need to capacitate the ecosystem. You need to give examples, best practices, motivation at the end of the day. So don't spend all the money that you have available in project grants. You need to have more investment in the people, in the ecosystem, to be able to, to nurture the ground. So when you have the instrument ready, they will provide you with enough challenges, with enough commitment, with enough resources for doing that. If you just put all the money into the projects without, evangelization of the community, of the top management and everything, then people will not pay attention to you. They will not give you good challenges. They will not give you good resources. And at the end, it will fail, and you think that this is the instrument that failed. But it was the preparation of the instrument that failed, really. So don't go straight to the chase and say, here, I need a challenge, and tomorrow we will have a project for 3 years with so much money. You need to motivate people. You need to convince people. You have to bring people on board. Pay attention to that, because you may think that this is a waste of time, but in my opinion, it's very important, because if you don't invest in that part, you will not get good results in the other part.
Yes, I fully agree with you, Jorge. And like yesterday, when we were traveling on taxi, we were speaking about the sauna, Finnish sauna. Do you all know Finnish sauna? You are throwing water to the hot stones, and you get the steam and so on. So I think, like you said, that we have to prepare the cooperation for the instruments before we start to work with the instruments in a way. So in that way, well, I would say to the European Commission or European Union that every city should have the sauna in their town, because in that way we can start the prepare work, or we can start the conversation in more open mind. We don't have to have the sauna exactly, but we have to have that kind of platform, that kind of platform where we can start the preparation work for the instruments. So in that way, we can all be on the same table and on the same level, speak the same language. So, but I fully agree with you, Jorge.
Yeah, maybe it would be nice to have more discussions with the auditorium before the forming some concrete suggestion for the national authorities, or especially for the European Commission. But firstly, I see that, and I think that it would be useful to revise some state aids rules for the R&D and innovation, because we had a lot of, during maybe 2 European financing periods, we had already the same rules with the state aid, and maybe it's time to revise these rules. And the second point would be maybe national authorities it case for Lithuania could be more brave in discussion with the European Commission about the different initiatives and about the results. Maybe there are some very good initiatives which already get the good and had a good experience and good results, and maybe it would be time to stop a little bit and to revise R&D and innovation policy in the European Commission. So that is in general. But in our case, in Lithuanian case, we maybe will prepare some suggestion for the detailed procedures, how it would be useful to change them, and how to give more freedom for the public authorities to make the agreement between contracting authority and participants for the intellectual property and maybe other benefits which could be get after the realizing common projects. So that is maybe on this very moment.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Thank you. Just a short comment to Louise, actually. In terms of this project, we as a partner chose particularly PCP because in the project area, it's easier for us to deal just with one particular instrument. But to answer your question, actually the gaps are both in terms of encouraging innovation in the country, and as well the PCP instrument itself has some things that could be improved. So, I mean, this is why I was asking about a broader view, but in terms of the project, all we basically need to do is improve the PCP instrument. So, I mean, so those are two different levels of issues, actually.
I'm sorry, I hadn't seen you, I'm sorry.
So I have a question for Mr. Salvola. Do you have some experience regarding social innovation, more specifically achieving social innovation through public procurement?
Yes, I do have. But for example, in the Tampere region, there's lots of good examples, which I can forward those examples straight to you after today.
Yes, thank you. We will exchange email addresses.
Yes, good. So yes, and we have lots of experiences from the, like those kind of criteria which we have used to buy only results. So we have done the tendering process in that way that we are only going to buy the results from the social impact point of view in a way. But I can forward those examples to you after today.
So I'm sorry we started a bit late. We're finishing a bit later. But if you think we can stop now, have a break, take the coffee to keep with the agenda, and we'll come back and start again with this last question for the next speakers. Thank you.